Okay, of course I'm going to break down this lick here, but that is not the important part of what I want to talk about today. The important thing that I want to talk about today is phrasing in the rhythm of the lick. So I think one of the biggest challenges when you are improvising, in this case over a blues style track, it's just getting your licks to sound good together. So what I mean by that is, maybe you have some licks under your fingers, you have some pretty good dexterity and technique, and you have the ability to play some licks well, but you improvise and you maybe listen to a recording of that and it just doesn't sound good. It just doesn't sound like the licks go together well. The phrasing's off. It just doesn't fit the song very well. And one of the easiest and best things you can do to improve that drastically is to watch the rhythm of each of your phrases in a lick. So that's the focus of what I want to talk about today. So I'm going to talk about the notes and the chords I'm playing over, of course, so you get that out of this lesson as well. But the big thing I want to emphasize here is the rhythm of this lick. And I picked this lick out of that solo specifically because I think that it demonstrates what I want to talk about very well. Of course, go to my site if you want to get the tab for the full solo and the backing track and all that. But what I'm talking about here in this lesson is basically rhythm, the rhythm of the lick, the timing, the rhythm of the lick, and how you can use a rhythm to make a lick sound good and fit together. So I'm going to play through the lick one time slow because I think that will help me talk through and describe what I'm trying to say here. So let's play through the lick one time slow. It goes something like this. So that's the lick minus a couple notes that I hit badly there. Now, what I want you to pay attention to is forget about the notes and forget about the chords I'm playing over for a second. And instead, look at the rhythm of the notes and how each of those little sections of the lick, how each of those feel rhythmically. So the basic takeaway here is that the rhythm is really similar. There's basically four separate phrases here, and they all have the same kind of rhythm feel behind them. So for a second, if I just could do this, rather than play the notes, just strum it out to see what it feels like. It would sound something like this. So that's pretty close to what the notes would sound like. And what you'll notice there is that the rhythm is pretty consistent. It's going with the song. If I were just to put on the backing track and just do this, I'm just making up a rhythm that goes with the backing track. You can use that rhythm to come up with your licks. And if you do that, if you get the rhythm to sound good and you put a lick on top of that, your lick is going to sound a whole lot better. It's going to sound like it goes with the song because it fits the rhythm of the song, right? This may seem like a basic, obvious thing now that you hear me talking about it, but if you have any examples of recordings of yourself where you sound bad, or you listen to yourself and you sound bad, think about it from that perspective. Think about it from the perspective of is my rhythm good? Is the rhythm fitting with the song well? That's oftentimes the problem if you're just not sounding good. When you have good rhythm, you can get away with not playing licks perfectly. You can get away better with not hitting all the right notes. It's such a big component of a lick like this to be able to have the rhythm perfect. That's probably the most important thing. So that's what I want to describe in this lesson. So my advice to you is try and come up with your own licks, and rather than think about the notes and the chords you're playing over first, and how to play the fastest lick you can or get your right hand down and things like that, instead of that, think about the rhythm first. Think about that as your first goal when you're writing a lick, to make the rhythm sound good. Start with that and then build on top of that. So maybe a way to approach that is to do what I just did. You put on a backing track, and rather than trying to figure out licks and chords and all the right notes and all that and all the technique, just do what I did. Come up with a rhythm that goes over that backing track that sounds good, and then write a lick that is based on that rhythm. And I promise it will be a tenfold improvement in the way you sound. So with that, let's start to talk about the lick here. And again, just keep that in mind. Keep in mind that rhythmic phrasing that I have in the background here. It's really similar to the 4 phrases in this lick. So now that we understand that, I'll talk about the notes. So first off, the chords that we're playing over, this is a lick that is going from D7 to A7. So the backing track is D9 actually to A7. So D to A7. So the first part of the lick, this is the D part. And we start off bending up on the 7th fret here. We do something like that. You can pick more notes if you want to, but we're just bending up on the 7th fret. And let's analyze how that is fitting with the D chord. So take a look at the D7 chord. Probably know that shape right there, right? 5, 4, 5 on the 5th, 4th, and 3rd string. So notice that this 5 on the 3rd fret, that's the flat 7th of D. So when we bend up, obviously this first note, the 7, is the D chord. When we get down to that 5, that's the 7 of D. So that sounds good with the D7, obviously. 7 is the 5th of D. Then we slide up to the D note and then back to the flat 7. So it's basically a lick that is emphasizing that 7th of the D7 chord. And if you want to look at this from the scale perspective, we're using the A minor pentatonic scale, but it's more important to think of the notes in the chord we're playing over rather than the scale. So that's the first part. And then the next part is this. We're still on the D chord. Sorry. Little double stop lick there that you can play with your fingers. So I'm picking down when I'm on the 4th string, and I'm picking with my finger when I'm plucking up on the 2nd string. This obviously goes with the D7 chord as well. Notice this first note right here. That right there is the C, that is the 7th of D. So we're emphasizing that flat 7th of D again. This is A, the 5th of D. And then we kind of creep our way down back to this note right here, the F sharp, which happens to be the major 3rd of D. Obviously fits very well with the D7 chord as well, because we have a major 3rd in that chord. So that's what we're playing over the D. And the next lick is actually playing over the D as well. But again, pay attention to the rhythm between the 1st and 2nd lick. So next part of the lick, we're back in this region down here. Again, emphasizing that flat 7th of D. So you can do this first version. Keep it simple. Bend up on the 7, 5, 7 on the 4th, and then two 5s in the 3rd string. Or you can do this version, where you do bend up, bend back, pull off, and then 7. And next note we land is on the 7th fret on the 4th string, which is the A note. So that right there is where we land on the A chord in this progression. So it goes. So we're landing on that A note when we land on the A chord, makes that transition very strong. So now that we're on the A chord, we're in A territory. The next lick is all A major because we're playing a A7 here. We of course have the major 3rd of A in this chord. So this next lick here emphasizes that major 3rd of A. So the first note is D, and then 3, 4 hammer on. That is the major 3rd of A. And then we land on the A note finally. So this right here, you see this all the time when you're in blues. It's a great way to outline a chord. Whenever you go from the 3rd to the root, that really emphasizes that chord change really well. Those are really the two main characteristic notes of that chord, right? The major 3rd gives it that major quality, and then the root note is obviously the root of the note. So anytime you play that, anytime you go from that 3rd of A to the A note, it really emphasizes that chord change really well. So common blues technique. So that's it. I'll play through it again a couple more times. Again, the big takeaway here, which is one of those things that seems really simple and stupid that you know may not seem like a big deal, but if you've listened to your recordings and you don't think you sound good, trust me, take this advice, try and apply, think about rhythms as the first thing, use rhythms as the first thing you think about when you're putting together a lick and you're improvising and you're trying to come up with the next lick to play. Think about it from a rhythm perspective first, and that's gonna go a really long way for you. So really pay attention to that. So that's it, that's the lesson. Let's play through this lick at a slow speed.